I was having the boy Rico from StreetScores, and I know I'm a little bit late, but breaking news. The Washington Commanders got some huge Terry McLaurin news today, man. He's apparently reporting back to practice. We're going to dive into all of that, what Dan Quinn had to say, how Kliff Kingsbury probably had a say in this. I mean, his word must be bond around there, man. That boy Kliff Kingsbury word holds weight. Also, we got to talk about how there's reports coming out that, of course, with him returning to practice, officially holding his ending his holdout, hold in, all of that type of stuff, and I guess essentially waiving his trade request, is a new deal coming soon, because that's our natural thought immediately after Terry McLaurin returns from practice. But how about the fact that we're also getting reports that a new deal probably is coming soon from several sources, and there's even a source out there saying that it may be $30 million per year. We're going to dive into all of that and more, but before we do, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all of the content. Appreciate y'all for supporting every video, and make sure y'all go get y'all tickets because we're running out for the live Commanders Kings show in Virginia, the Crystal City Sports Pub. We will be live doing a show there August 24th. Make sure you pull up. If you can attend, you can also even donate as well. Link in the description of this video and every video I've done for the past few weeks. Make sure y'all pull up if you can. It's going to be a special moment. Without further ado, let's go and dive into this video right now, man. Let's get it. Adam. And also, since this was like not like a real serious practice, somewhat of like a jog through, I will have like an update of everything that went down in practice, like who looked good, who looked bad, any clips that came from it, like including the Jaden Daniels deep bomb to Ja'Cory Brooks. I mean, no, to Deebo Samuel, my fault. Like, so I'm going to do that later. But right now we're talking about Terry McLaurin. And the reason that relates to practice is the fact that apparently he has returned to practice. Now, nobody saw him physically out there today, but the Washington Commanders announced 8 hours ago, we have activated wide receiver Terry McLaurin off of the active, physically unable to perform list. Terry McLaurin is officially off of the PUP list. Now, granted, the contract situation remains unsolved. I want to emphasize that. We're going to dive into why this is still great news and why a contract is potentially coming very soon, like well before week 1 is what a lot of people are feeling. We're going to dive into that soon, but still, this is a very big step in the right direction. Even Ian Rappaport's talking about everybody, Adam Schefter, but Ian Rappaport tweeted a small step. Commanders wide receiver Terry McLaurin is coming off of the PUP list. He's set to ramp up. The next step is returning to practice. Now, granted, he's not returning to practice yet. It's not as much to deal with the new contract. It's more so to deal with the fact that he has to get back into NFL shape. Like, being a regular human being and being in shape, a guy that goes to the gym, is completely different from NFL shape. I always bring up the fact that I remember seeing Trent Williams when he was hurt that one time, that one season where he was hurt like long term, like out for weeks or even a couple of months. He was on the sideline chilling. No cast, no crutches. And I remember thinking, like, as a small kid, like, wow, like, that guy is, like, he looks completely normal. He looks like a normal human being that can go out and do whatever he wants, go out to eat, do anything. But he's not even ready to play football for another few weeks from now. So there's a different level of shape from normal human, chilling, can go out there and run routes and catch passes from Jaden Daniels, to actual real NFL shape, where you got to block a defensive end, maybe chip him, a linebacker, a DB, or out there running routes, catching passes, and then taking on tackles and hits. Like, that's a different level of shape than just running around catching passes, man. And he could do that all day long. And Linnell Willingham went on Rio Robinson's stream and said that Terry McLaurin has been catching passes from Jaden Daniels on the low, on the secret, this entire time. So, like, that's why I've been saying for weeks now, even though this situation ended up going way longer and further than I thought it ever would, Terry McLaurin's behind the scenes, even though he requested that trade, that was clearly just a money move, a leverage play, something that trying to increase the chances of him getting more money in a potential contract. He never really wanted to leave the team. Again, he's been catching passes from Jaden Daniels the entire time. According to Linnell Willingham, he said he's heard whispers and reports and things like that. And he said it's so obvious and matter-of-factly, like, yeah, he's been here. He just hasn't shown himself in public with the team because that's part of his holdout. That's part of his boycott against the team until he officially gets the money that he wants. I mean, in comparison to a Trey Hendrickson that is soon, like the day before the Bengals training camp started, he gave them until then. He was in Cincinnati this whole offseason. The day before the Bengals training camp, he goes back home to Orlando, Florida. Like, that's on purpose. That's trying to avoid the team as much as you possibly can. Micah Parsons, I mean, granted, he has been going to the practices and at least standing around, but I don't think he's necessarily doing things behind the scenes with the team like Terry is. So we always had the situation that looked a little less ugly compared to a lot of the other guys that were requesting trades and trying to get more money and stuff like that. But either way, the next step is, of course, him returning to practice officially, like getting onto the field and actually doing stuff, especially like team drills. Now, Ian Rappaport also said that there's no indication of progress on an extension just yet, but with the season looming, McLaurin will begin the process of getting his body ready. And we're going to talk about this later, but like worst case scenario, it sounds like, as far as from the Commanders' point of view, the worst thing that can happen is that Terry McLaurin ends up coming back and playing, but he's just playing on that last year of his contract that he's currently under. Like, he's under contract right now. He's not a free agent. Technically, he's obligated to pull up and play right now. And I've already explained, due to, especially because of his age, he would never skip out on this season. I never thought that was even a possibility for him, and I'm happy that he's realized it and is now pulling up a little bit sooner than I kind of expected at this point. Like, as of a few days ago, I thought this McLaurin thing would kind of, teeter on until like we get closer to week 1. I'm happy that we don't play a game until September 7th. He's already ramping up at least 3 weeks before that. Now, granted, he's not going to be able to go out there in this Bengals preseason game, which is the only time that our starters will play this entire preseason, this entire offseason against an opposing team. Because you have the Patriots joint practice, you have this Bengals game that's coming up Monday night that I will be live streaming, and that's it. They canceled the joint practice with the Ravens, and none of our starters are playing in the first nor the final preseason game against the Patriots or the Ravens, just to let you know. So Terry McLaurin will miss any opportunity to get any meaningful reps in practice time against an opposing team and their starters and things like that. He's going to miss out on that, but at the very least, he's out there a little bit sooner than I thought, just based off of everything that we were seeing and hearing the past couple of days. This kind of came out of nowhere, but I'm happy to hear it, man. And so John Comm also said that he had not seen Terry McLaurin in the field after being activated off a pup. So he was at the practice today, never saw Terry out there. They said that he would typically work with athletic trainers on the side field first before he's ready to go out there, but I'm not even sure if they saw him doing that yet. So we'll see what's going on there. Can't wait to see the updates on that. But then Dan Quinn talked about Terry McLaurin coming off a pup list, and does that have any correlation with his contract? Dan Quinn straight up just said no. His exact quote was, "Definitely separate. This is about getting ready to play, and that's it." Which takes me back to my point that at least he's here to play. Worst case scenario for the Commanders, he's going to be playing on his current contract with no new contract. That's like the worst case scenario for us. I'm hoping everybody ends up happy. He signs a long-term extension well before week 1, and we can just focus purely on football. But worst case scenario from us as fans, Terry will be out there week 1, and he's going to at least have like 3 weeks of practice time with Jaden Daniels, training camp, and then after we finish the final preseason game, you have those practices leading to the regular season that technically aren't training camp, but it still kind of feels like it. He'll have that amount of time, at least 3 weeks, to kind of get it together, because I don't think Jamar Chase even had that long. I think Jamar Chase held out longer than this amount of time last season for the Bengals, which led to them getting off to an ugly start and losing games they shouldn't have lost last year. But either way, shouts out to the fact that Terry McLaurin, at worst, will at least be out there week 1 with 3 weeks worth of practice time to prepare for it. But at the same time, no, We Want Dallas brings up a good point that Quinn described McLaurin as being on the same page, and that is huge, which seems to indicate that we can rule out him potentially holding out in the season and missing games. I mean, first of all, the fact that he's returning to practice is already one sign, but then also Dan Quinn did say that he, the team, and Terry McLaurin, all of those guys are on the same page. It sounds like Terry McLaurin is ready to return and at least play. He wants his contract, but at the end of the day, man, he's like, man, I just want to get back on that field and play with my guys. And then also another reason that I'm very optimistic, I mean, look at this clip right here uploaded by NBC4 Sports, man. Here, you have Adam Peters, Dan Quinn, and Jaden Daniels sitting here talking to each other. And as you notice, look how positive the conversation between the top three is going. And of course, your top three, Adam Peters, Jaden Daniels, and Dan Quinn. But look at, like, you can tell that the energy and happiness is up compared to any other training camp practice that I've ever seen these guys participate at. Like, even when Adam Peters and Terry McLaurin were talking in public to each other like a few days ago, it didn't look that positive. Like, Jaden Daniels looks the happiest I've seen him in a while. Everybody just looks happy. Like, yes, man, we finally have a full team back. Everybody's smiling, laughing. It's definitely a different energy with Terry McLaurin coming back. And so you can just tell that they already knew this before this clip was uploaded. It definitely, so everybody looking like they just having a good old time. We are ready. We are back fully loaded. and we are ready to go in this Super Bowl run. And again, I think it is important that, now granted, Terry McLaurin is going to miss any meaningful snaps against a starting opposing defense before we get to regular season week 1, because again, he missed the joint practice with the Patriots and the Bengals preseason game. But again, I really want to emphasize the fact that he's at least getting 3 weeks worth of practice compared to, I think, Jamar Chase, he pulled up at the last second. Or even like a Noah Brown. He wasn't holding out. We just didn't sign him until like a few days before that week 1 game last year. And so Terry McLaurin is at least going to have more time than that. Now, granted, speaking of Noah Brown, we still have to worry about that because we're basically 3 weeks away from playing a regular season game, and he's still not healthy enough to even participate in team drills yet. So we'll see where that goes. But at least we have Terry McLaurin. And I want Noah Brown back, but having Terry McLaurin back is way bigger than not having Noah Brown. So I'm still happy. And then you even have NFL_talk_sports on Twitter. They've reported that the expectations around the league, based off of sources that they're hearing from different people around the NFL, is that the Commanders and wide receiver Terry McLaurin will agree to a new deal before week 1 versus the Giants. So like I said, worst case scenario, he's playing under his current deal, the one that's he's unhappy about and what led to the holdout, then the hold-in, then the trade request. At worst case scenario, he'll just play on that deal because he's prioritizing playing as early as possible and he wants to win a Super Bowl. But there's even reports out there that we could be more optimistic about the fact that he probably will end up signing his new deal before week 1 starts. Now, how soon are we talking? Well, first of all, Seawall Sports was out there at practice, and apparently Adam Schefter was at the practice, and she tweeted that I'm thinking Terry McLaurin will be signed in 5, 4, 3, 2. And she said, if I'm wrong, my bad in advance, y'all. And some people are, of course, saying that, like, maybe he's there because, you know, technically ESPN is the one that's streaming and televising and commentating and doing everything, the production for this upcoming Bengals game that we have. So it could be completely separate from Terry McLaurin. Adam Schefter may be there for that just regardless. But at the same time, Seawall Sports said I could totally see that. But given John Keim is here and he's an ESPN representative as well, today's practice wasn't even padded too. Let's add to that. Like, this wasn't even a serious practice for Adam Schefter to pull up and try to get some clips of what's going on and things like that. This was like a very mundane vanilla practice. And then she also said, and he has even more access than Keim. So coming here this early is very interesting, especially since he was there like very early in the morning before the practice even started. So I'm with Seawall Sports, where I'm thinking this is more than just the fact that Adam Schefter is an ESPN reporter, and ESPN is hosting the upcoming Bengals versus Commanders preseason game that's going down Monday night that, again, I will be live streaming. I think it's more than that, because it's really no, we already have John Keim here. If when in doubt, if ESPN needs any information, John Keim could give it to him. And again, this practice that we had today, I'm gonna still break it down later on, but there was not much to really take from it, to be completely honest with you. It was no pads, no contact, pretty much a glorified walkthrough essentially. And then you also had somebody named @RickyScoops on Twitter that came out and flat out said, spooky season is coming. Terry McLaurin will be getting a new deal from the Commanders worth $30 million per year, and the extension should be completed before the season, as details are still being finalized. He also said a new deal for Scary Terry is coming. And of course, this sent the internet on a frenzy. First of all, to just announce that Terry McLaurin will be getting a new deal, just straight up, like, not we're hearing reports, we have sources that think, maybe, we're hearing none of that. Just straight up, Terry McLaurin will be getting a new deal with the Commanders worth, and then to also give the amount, $30 million per year. I don't exactly know where this guy's hearing this information, and typically I would just scoff this off, wave it off like, this is just a random guy trying to clickbait people and things like that. But if you actually go down @RickyScoops Twitter account, this guy is actually usually right and a pretty reliable source. Like, when I've never really heard of this guy before, but based off of what I'm seeing other people saying, and then I went down his Twitter for like a few minutes to just go back into his past tweets and things like that. When he's announced that something's gonna happen, it typically happens. He seems like an actually like fairly reliable source right now. Of course, he's not like an Adam Schefter or anything like that, but then maybe he's one of those guys undercover. I don't know, but he seems like one of those people that prefers to be right and prioritizes being a trustworthy source that people always rely on. When you say something, they believe you, rather than being like first in clickbaity and stuff like that. So I'm still skeptical, because again, this is just some random guy. Again, maybe he's just some undercover, actual, real, authorized, trustworthy source or something like that, but we'll see. Maybe guys like Adam Schefter know something as well, but just made an oath to not say it or tweet it based off of the information that somebody gave them, some sensitive information, and they were like, yeah, I won't put it out there yet, but thank you for letting me know early so that when y'all are ready to announce me, I can be the one to say it or something like that. So maybe they do know something. Again, Adam Schefter pulled up to the practice, one of the most meaningless practices we've had all training camp, where there's, I mean, no contact, no nothing. So it's kind of weird. And also, as far as timing, I don't think any of this is a coincidence, man. For Terry McLaurin to pull up, for them to activate him off a PUP list, Adam Schefter there for no reason, and then Dan Quinn saying what he says. I don't think this is a coincidence. I think where there's smoke, there's fire, and there's a lot of reports coming from a lot of different people, but we'll see. But shouts out to @Sleeper Washington on Twitter. He brings up a good point. He said it feels like a Terry deal is on the horizon. Off the PUP list, and reports are saying that he worked his asking price down significantly since the beginning of the holdout. That's an interesting update as well right there. I think the two sides will agree soon. And then Lake Lewis straight up tweeted, it wouldn't be a surprise to see Terry getting a new contract this weekend. Mind you, it's Saturday, so are we talking about Sunday before this Bengals preseason game? And I feel like even if Terry McLaurin were to sign an extension tonight, I don't think he would be ramped up quickly enough to NFL shape to even be able to play in that Bengals preseason game. So like I said, I still feel like he would miss that. I don't think a buzzer beater last second contract extension today or even tomorrow would save Terry McLaurin to be able to still participate in this upcoming Bengals preseason game, which is the only preseason game that it would make sense for him to play in. But hey, at the least the contract will be signed. But Lake Lewis also finished by saying a lot of signs are pointing in that direction. So hey man, I don't know. I'm trying to reserve myself. I'm trying to stay calm and everything like that. But it sounds like this Terry McLaurin deal probably really is getting done. Even just beyond the fact that he's been activated off of the PUP list and he's slated and scheduled to start practicing with the Commanders again for the first time since back in like May. Even beyond that, we're hearing reports that yes, behind the scenes, there's some contract stuff going on. Also, Grant Paulson said, lots of questions need to be answered. Namely, does this mean he's willing to start doing on-field activities? Because it feels like the long game of chicken could be winding down, but we'll see. I agree. Also, St. Waz said doesn't mean that he'll practice and that the hold in is over. It just means he's been activated off of the PUP list, which is an interesting point because technically this all came from the Commander side. Everything that's happened today came from the Commanders activating them off the PUP list. What if they just decided we're going to activate you off the PUP list even without you giving us the say-so to do so? Like, even though we didn't mutually agree, like, it's time for me to come off the PUP list with this fake ankle injury that I've been claiming that I had. I mean, the Commanders could have just been petty and did this on their own accord without Terry McLaurin's say-so and agreeing to it. But Mark Tyler brings up a good point. He said Quinn specifically said that he will ramp up just like the others who are doing the same. Basically, like the guys that are recovering from injuries like Jordan McGee and stuff like that, Terry McLaurin is going to be ramping up just like those guys and will eventually practice when he hits all of the requirements. So it sounds like Dan Quinn is saying that it sounds like Terry McLaurin will be back. But Dan Quinn, of course, was also pessimistic about Terry McLaurin playing in the preseason finale against the Ravens, even if he does hit all of the markers with his ankle and stuff like that. Because again, we're not playing any starters in that game. So Terry McLaurin is just going to be out there with a bunch of third and fourth stringers. I'm not even sure if second stringers will play much. Like, I don't even think Jeremy Reeves at safety or even like a Luke McCaffrey at wide receiver. Like, I don't even think those guys, even like how we started a couple of rookies like Jalen Lane and Josh Connolly, I don't think they're playing in that third and final preseason game. It will be Terry McLaurin and friends out there, and I don't think it's worth it to put them out there against that. I mean, I guess if you really like the sole purpose of getting them back in the football shape, getting them used to taking hits, that's cool. But at the same time, man, those third and fourth stringers are playing for their lives. Like, they're out there giving it 110% every snap because they're fighting for a chance to stay in the NFL, to stay on the NFL team, and at the very least make a practice squad. You know what I'm saying? So they're going to be out there playing with reckless abandon. I don't want to put Terry McLaurin out there in front of a bunch of hungry wolves and bulls out there. So I don't really think it's worth it. And David Harrison brings up a good point. Even though Terry McLaurin has been activated off of the PUP list, Coach Dan Quinn says that it's a part of the ramp-up process, but could this be a tactical move in contract negotiations? Again, like I just said earlier, this technically is on the Commander side. Now, Dan Quinn is making it sound like there was an agreement between the Commanders and Terry McLaurin to activate him off the PUP list. But the Commanders could be just petty and just activating off of the PUP list and telling them, your move. you're off the PUP list. So are you going to practice or not? Are you going to miss game checks, practice checks, all of that type of stuff? Or are you not? But I don't think it's that. I'm just letting y'all know I'm brainstorming. You know, I try to give you every idea from every point of view, whether it's right or wrong or whatever, devil's advocate, anything. I try to give y'all everything that I can think of. And that's an interesting point, but I don't think that that's what's happened. Again, Dan Quinn is letting you know the way that he's wording it, they've come to a mutual agreement. You're getting off the PUP list and you're going to start ramping up so you can get back to practicing as soon as possible. I'm assuming Terry McLaurin gave him the say so for him to be that confident in that. I mean, to even the point that he's talking about, he more than likely not play against the Ravens in that preseason game. Like, that's just automatically assuming that Terry McLaurin would be available and back on the team practicing and healthy enough and ramped up enough to even play against the Ravens. Mark Tyler also said, we all know that Terry wasn't actually injured. I'm curious as to who decided this and what the conversation leading up to this was. Was this DQ and Terry like a sit down type of thing? Or did Terry tell his agent to basically back off and let me handle this myself? Like, forget your advice. I'm going to do this on my own. And that's interesting because it's either one of the two. I don't think there's really any other possibility here. I think it's between either Terry and the team with Dan Quinn and Adam Peters. They come to the mutual agreement, get off the PUP, come back and practice. We'll still try to work out this contract thing, but we need you practicing even before we do that. Or Terry McLaurin probably was tired of Buddy Baker and was like, man, I'm going back. I want to practice. I want to play. I'm going back. You figure out the contract. That could be a thing. And then also, Al Galdi brought up a great point. He said the longer that the Terry McLaurin situation goes on, the more that it becomes apparent that Adam Peters is playing this very well and Buddy Baker is playing this very poorly. I completely agree. Adam Peters and the Commanders always had the majority of the leverage, arguably all of the leverage. And now it looks even crazier. Like, now they have even more leverage. Now that Terry McLaurin is like, yeah, I'll just come back and practice, man. Even with no new deal, I'm just coming back to practice because I just want to be out there that bad. It sounds like Terry McLaurin wants to be back with the team more than the team necessarily feels like they need Terry McLaurin to return. So Terry McLaurin, maybe, I wouldn't say desperate, but he definitely wanted to be back. And Adam Peters and the Commanders definitely took advantage of that fact. And then also, did that boy Kliff Kingsbury come in clutch, man? We got to talk about that. Shouts out to Bleeding Burgundy and Gold. He said, I ain't know you had pull like that, Kliff. I'll never underestimate you again. Because think about it. Less than 24 hours after asking Terry to come back publicly, just yesterday in his press conference after practice, less than 24 hours later, Terry McLaurin comes back and he's apparently ramping up. He's off the PUP list and all of that type of stuff. I mean, was it really that simple? I mean, Kliff was the first person to actually publicly ask Terry to come back as like a head coach or any type of coach on the team. And so was that all we needed to do? Was just ask Terry to come back in front of a mic and a camera and that's all it was? Like, this may not even necessarily be a Kliff Kingsbury thing specifically. Maybe Terry McLaurin's like, well, y'all never said please type of thing. You know what I'm saying? I'm joking, but it's just crazy that within 24 hours, either Kliff Kingsbury has that much pull or maybe it's a coincidence. I don't know. Or again, the third option, maybe Terry McLaurin was just like, somebody needs to at least ask me out in public before I pull up. Something petty and funny like that. Either way though, Mike Garafolo said, one day after offensive coordinator Kliff Kingsbury said it's time for an on-field work for Terry McLaurin to return and all of that, the Commanders activate the veteran wide receiver off of the PUP list. I mean, there may not be a coincidence there. Shouts out to Sidonia Ave. He said, give Kliff Timothy Kingsbury the key to the city. Right now, everybody's praising Kliff Kingsbury, and a lot of people are giving him the credit for why Terry McLaurin pulled up. It could just be excellent timing. It could just so happen to be that Kliff Kingsbury just so happened to ask Terry McLaurin to return to practice in front of a mic and a camera yesterday, and then it just so happens that they decided to activate him off the PUP list today. But I don't know, man. It's looking a little crazy. That boy Kliff Kingsbury may be different. And then shouts out to @JahanOPOY, still a crazy Twitter handle. I mean, you could definitely have changed that by now. But either way, hey, at least I remember who he is because of it. But he tweeted that he's happy that there will be no more Terry jersey swaps on his timeline. Now, I haven't been seeing them, but shouts out to those of y'all who actually follow enough fans or reporters of other teams, I don't know, that's been throwing out these jersey swaps. I've only seen like maybe one or two. And then also Dan Quinn spoke on the situation, and I feel like this is all very important. Let's dive into it. So, of course, the Washington Commanders have activated wide receiver Terry McLaurin off the PUP list, marking the next step forward to him returning to the field. Dan Quinn said, quote, that's good news. That'll begin the return to play process for him, unquote. Then Zach Selby said McLaurin has been dealing with an ankle injury since he reported the training camp on July 27th. I think they're lying. I straight up think they're lying. But either way, I think that was just completely a ploy to make Terry McLaurin not look like the bad guy. Like, man, I can't practice anyway. I'm hurt. Yeah, it's nothing to do with the contract. Like, man, I don't believe that. Either way, though, shouts out to the Commanders for appeasing that. You know what I'm saying? They could have just been like, nah, man, this is purely because he's trying to avoid, he doesn't want to practice without a contract. Matter of fact, we're not even going to honor him. We're not even going to put him on the PUP list. You're just going to be sitting out here holding out, and that's it. You're on your own. You're going to get fined, all of that type of stuff. So shouts out to the Commanders for even at least doing right by him. I know the contract negotiations have been a little rough, but they could have not have put him on the PUP list. It's not like he can put himself on the PUP list, and that means not only would he have looked crazy PR-wise to the fan base, like he would have looked selfish and things like that, but then also he would have been still getting fined for all of these practices that he hasn't participated in, so that would have been crazy. But like other players injured on the Commanders roster, McLaurin will go through a ramp-up process to get ready for his debut. He was ruled out of participation for the Monday Night Football preseason game against the Bengals. I'm going to talk about that in my training camp practice breakdown from earlier today. Dan Quinn said, quote, "We've got a real process in our return to play that we believe in. We know it works, and we'll hit all of those steps as well," unquote. So basically, we have a process. There's a way that we do this. Whether it's a guy faking an ankle injury, trying to get a new contract, or if it's a guy that's actually injured, we have a way that we return guys. You're going to ramp up. You're not just going to go out there and immediately start putting on shoulder pads and helmets and dealing with immediate contact, because that's how you end up with a long-term injury. Then with 3 weeks until the Commanders' 2025 season opener versus the New York Giants at Northwest Stadium, Quinn said that it was important for McLaurin to get him prepared for the game. McLaurin was not on the field for the team's final practice before his matchup with the Bengals, which is part of the Washington's recovery plans for McLaurin. Quinn added that the move to activate McLaurin is not related to the ongoing contract negotiation between him and the team. Quinn again said, quote, "Definitely separate. This is about him getting ready to play," which is honestly awesome. It was just cool seeing him get closer, because now you know that steps are getting closer to him returning on the field, unquote. In addition to being unavailable for the Bengals game, Quinn also cast doubt on whether McLaurin would be available for the preseason finale against the Ravens. I'm going to go ahead and let y'all know now. He's not going to be out there. Again, he's going to be out there with third and fourth stringers. If he were, I don't think it's even worth that risk. And then Dan Quinn also said, quote, "There's markers to hit, but it gives you a runway to be able to do that," unquote. Basically, if they want to play him against the Ravens, at least with him officially coming off of the PUP list and starting his ramp-up period as early as Saturday, August 16th, by the time we play the Ravens on August 23rd, technically, he probably by then would have ramped up enough to be able to play in that game. But again, I don't think we're going to throw him out there in harm's way against a bunch of backups, a bunch of starving wolves out there. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know if you feel about everything discussed in the video. Please stick on that like button, stick on the subscription button, stick on the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. I know there was a lot to take in. There were a lot of different points and stuff like that. But let me know how you feel about everything. How do you feel about Terry McLaurin's chances of getting a contract done before week 1? Do you assume, like I do and like most people do at this point, that Terry McLaurin will play week 1 against the Giants and be ready to suit up and everything like that, even if he doesn't sign a new contract by week 1? Let me know how you feel about everything reported in this video. Let me know if you agree that this ankle injury thing is completely a facade. Let me know how y'all feel about all of that. I'm going to try my best to read and reply to as many comments as possible. Leave a like on the way out. I appreciate y'all. I'm going to catch y'all later with a training camp breakdown of what went down in practice today. Again, it was a very light practice. It wasn't a lot that went on, but we still got a few clips and a few updates of who had great practices, like Tay Martin. Apparently, Tay Martin had a great practice, so stay tuned for that. Leave a like on the way out. I'm going to catch y'all later. I'm out.